Hey, it's Mike and Rick Mooney, and we're here in Cleveland for the NFL Draft.
Getting excited, man. Getting excited. The Steelers are going to load up this year, man. We're very excited.
That's right. It's a little cold.
Yeah. A little chilly down here, but man, we're excited. We're ready to go.
Yeah,
Woo!
we're going to do a little draft preview. So,
yes, we are.
Check it out.
Cleveland, Ohio, getting excited and ready for the draft. As you can see, the draft room is right behind us.
Yeah, today we're going to review our top 10 prospects that could land on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Very exciting time. My 10 prospects. Nadia Harris is a guy I think could be a Steeler. He's a stud running back. He runs over people. We need that kind of physicality on this team. Number one need, in my opinion. Another guy I think that could be, possibly, Landon Dickerson. I don't care about his injuries. I know it is a concern. He'll probably fall. Hopefully the second round to us. The dude is tough as hell. He's the best center in this draft, in my opinion. Definitely will help our run game and could be there for 10 years plus. Another guy that I love, that I think the Steelers could also love, is Humphrey. He's a very good option if Dickerson is gone. And he's also a stud, very solid, nasty offensive lineman. Another guy that fits the mold, Asante Samuel Jr. A tough corner, great kid, family bloodline, the NFL, all things that the Steelers love. He's physical, and I think he would be perfect in our secondary. Start day one in the slot. Another running back that I think if Nadia Harris is gone and we could wait to get that would fit the mold of the type of guy I think the Steelers are looking for is Trey Sermon. He's a big back, and he's very underrated in my opinion. He can carry the rock, and he's a good player. Just very underrated. We may be able to get him in the third round. Another player that is very nasty, and I think the Steelers would consider if he fell to them, is Tevin Jenkins. He's one of the most nasty physical tackles in this draft, although he did play a lot on the right, rarely on the left. But he could probably make the transition to the left, and that's most guys in this draft. There's not a lot of true left tackles. But he is nasty. Another player that I think the Steelers really love is Freiermuth. We need a backup tight end. He's a big, strong guy, can catch and block. And he didn't get the ball down the field as much as I'd like, but I think it's just the way he was used. I think he could do it. And I think he could play a lot for us. Good kid, too. Look for them to be interested if he's there. Another player that's very underrated that could be a slot option for us and day one is Shawn Wade of Ohio State. If he falls, and he could fall to round 4, I think we grab him. I would be very excited if he was one of our corners we took. Another player that's on my list is Tommy Tremble. Great blocker, nasty blocker. Also can catch, has good hands, and can develop into a great tight end. And he doesn't have to be on our team now because we have Ebron, so he'd be number 2 guy. One more guy, last guy on my list, is Nico Collins from Michigan. Big, fast receiver, and he's a downhill threat, down the field threat that I think the Steelers need in this offense. So look for them to take another receiver. I don't think it'll be a little fast, shifty guy. I think it'll be a big, stretch the field, Martavis Bryant type player. So that's my list. And a couple of guys that I really would love if they took would be Ecklenberg from Notre Dame, the tackle, and maybe the edge from Notre Dame if he fell. So edge is another position I didn't address here, but I think it will be somebody we take in this draft. That's my list.
All right, so that was an excellent list by Rick, and I agree with a lot of them, and I agree that they would all fit into our scheme. So here's my list. Topping off is Tevin Jenkins. He's a 6'6", 320-pound player with a high intelligence and, to me, what appears to be a great discipline. His stock's been rising steadily all offseason, and some say he could be gone as early as the 17th pick, so our odds of getting him don't look great quite yet. But, we'll see what actually happens in the draft. He's split low with a wide frame. He's got good power and excellent body control, and it looks like he's got a powerful core that allows him to base up and kind of flatten the edge for running backs. That's really why I like him. Next up, I've got Edgy Harris on mine as well, accompanied by what look like, you guys can see there's a few other running backs I have on there, and realistically, I just want one of these guys, but I like the talent that they each have individually. Najee specifically, great size with the demeanor for the game. There's a confidence level there, and there's a physical spark that not everybody carries with them. He's able to gather and cut on short notice, which is one of the biggest variables I like about him. I don't like that he jumps on short notice so much, because that's, in the NFL, one of the fastest ways to get injured, but one of the biggest benefits about him is he rarely fumbles the ball, and that's, for the Steelers with James Conner, God bless him, the dude just fumbled though, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't great, but so to me, with Najee Harris, if he rarely fumbles, that's a huge upside, and he runs decisively and with urgency. So in 2020, he had 251 rushing attempts for 1,466 yards, and he averaged about 5.8 yards per carry and scored 26 touchdowns. So excellent statistics. I would love to take him in the first round. My next perfect prospect would be Jaycee Horn. In case the previous two wouldn't work out in the first round, it would be this guy for me. In my opinion, we're hurting terribly at the corner position. I like Joe Hayden, obviously, but he's not getting any younger, and we need a prospect in there that's going to be, with the Pittsburgh Steelers for the next, however many years, that can, help lead our defense on the outside. I know to expect him to be a first-round pick, obviously, but my thought is we just need a corner like him, and he's a solid corner coming out of South Carolina. He's 6'1", with in his arms reach 33 inches, which is solid for a corner position. He comes from an NFL bloodline. He plays to his size with physical man coverage. He's experienced in moving coverage from outside to slot. He's able to track down receivers kind of after allowing an early separation, and that's probably my biggest variable for him that makes him in my top 10. Moving on to my next guy, I've got Javonte Williams. I know his 40 time from his pro day was horrid, but I still like the way he plays. Lots of people said, he's a track star, and they expected some insane speeds for his 40 time, but to me, I knew that wasn't going to happen. I knew he's football fast and not necessarily speed fast, and so I'm okay with that. I do think he's a bit overhyped in terms of where people think he'll go. I would love to pick him up in the second if he's still there by the time we get to our pick in the second, and if it's possible for us to get somebody like Tevin Jenkins in the first round, obviously, one of the top tackles in the first. I will say, from an upside, he's got plenty of tread left on his tires with just 366 career carries. He's got good creativity for a power back, and he runs a tight track off the blocker's hips on cuts, which, huge variable. He's got a wide base with feet under him for A-plus contact balance. So I will say I'm a little bit scared of his running style. I think that could cause some in-season wear and tear, but that'd be a risk I would be willing to take. My next guy is Tommy Treble, the tight end, and I know Rick also had him on his list. I think he's a very underrated tight end. I expect him to go later in the draft, which to us I think is good, but I hope he ends up on the Steelers. He's got a great size at 6'3", 241 pounds, and he's a feisty player. He's got a feisty demeanor, and I don't know, it suits his love of contact, so he's a physical player. He is activated as a blocker from a variety of formations, and I would say, for me, the key variable here is he can separate on second and third level routes, which is huge for a tight end. A lot of them are too slow and can't do that, and with that ability, to me, that's huge. I also have Trey Sermon out of Ohio State on my list, just like Rick. So that one rounds off my running backs, and maybe he could be there for a third-round pick. And I think if he is a third-round pick for us, then that would be a steal. So we could, get other positions earlier on and address running back later if we picked him up. I will say, I know, we've drafted backs. We've drafted a lot of running backs over the past 5 years, if you look back and actually look at it. And to me, I think that, we keep getting these later backs that we expect to kind of turn out okay, and they really don't do that great. So, Benny Snell, I won't be too down on, but if you go back and look, it's actually kind of relatively disappointing. So, to me, if we do get a third round pick or later running back, I would want it to be Trey. He's a capable pass catcher with a great ability to hit chunk plays out of the battlefield. His run after catch was also impressive and effective in 2018 and 2020, not so much in 2019. And I think he strides with power and drive once he opens it up. Next guy that I have is Jaycee Oweh from Penn State. I don't think we need to address the edge position early on in the draft. We just need some decent depth there. Unfortunately, this draft isn't great for that position, though. But this is my guy here. I don't want to address this position early just to pick up the kid from Georgia, who I think is an excellent player, and I know that Colbert and Tomlin went to their pro day. But to me, I think that he's going to be a first-round pick, and there's a lot better talent that I would prefer to get in the first round. So it kind of it falls to Jaycee Oweh for me, since I'm not a fan of Rousseau. He's got a shredded athletic build with a tapered waist. He's very much a strength-speed prospect. He can attack the corner in a big hurry as a rusher. He swivels his hips really well and turns unrealistic tackle angles into realistic things. And he's very rangy to cut off both play side corner and backside cutback lanes. And those are huge variables for this position that not a lot of people recognize. So for me, definitely why he would be a top 10 prospect. And just like Rick, I also have Creed Humphrey on my top 10 prospects. He's talented, his highlights are impressive, and he just looks like a Steeler. He's a 3-year starter and a 2-year team captain. He's got fluid footwork for short pull game. His wrestling background is definitely evident. He swings his hips really well, and he helps clean up with teammates when protection gets leaky. There's some concerns about his arm length being so short since it allows defenders to discard him more easily, but it looked like he handled that and improved it a little bit better in the Senior Bowl, so I kind of expect him to be a second rounder here. Sam Cosmi is my next player. To me, he's one of the underrated tackles in the draft. Some people say a late first rounder. I definitely think he'll go in the second round, and to me, I'd be happy to get him there. A 3-year starter. He's got great leverage and hand strength to stick and sustain on the inside zone. He looks great in space, and he moves like a big tight end, very fluid. And he alters his speeds to stalk and strike on second and third levels, which I think is very important. Rounding out the bottom of my top 10 prospects is Nico Collins. I don't want the Steelers to pick up a linebacker here, especially not after the Vince Williams re-signing, but we all know how Colbert handles drafts and what they've done in the past, so what I'm saying is if they do get a linebacker, I expect Nico Collins to be gone in the first round, so if you do get a linebacker with this draft, get it out of the way, get it out of your system, and pick up Nico Collins, who's a heck of an athlete. He was a 3-year starter and the winner of the Bronco Nagurski Award, which is impressive. He's got a freaky combination of size and athleticism for a linebacker. He's got the range to make plays all over the field, and he's got an excellent awareness for air traffic and zone coverage. And those are my top 10. I will say that I know Rick mentioned Landon Dickerson, and I can see why he likes him. He's definitely the best center in this draft. To me, he hasn't played a complete season yet, and that kills me. I did see footage of him doing cartwheels a couple weeks ago, though, so that kind of, I don't know, made me pretty pumped to see that. So his athleticism at his size is pretty astounding. So I'd say if the team doctors check him out and are okay with it, then I would be very happy to have him on our team, and I would, put him into our top 10. I do expect to be a second rounder, potentially an early second rounder, and so I would be happy to take him if he's still available in the second round for us. Liam Eichenberg is an alternate as well, just like Rick. I'd be happy to have him. Great tackle. He's got a great length and reach and good size. I will say if there's one player I keep seeing people suggest that I don't want, it's Walker Little. He was injured 2 years ago and barely played in that season and didn't play last year due to COVID. He's smart, went to Stanford, but to me, he's too green to be a high draft pick, and there's too much tackle talent to waste on a gamble. So I'm really hoping we don't go in that direction. I'm sure he'll be good in the NFL someday, but to me, like I said, it's just too much of a gamble. All right. Well, that's all we have covering each of our top 10 prospects that we think fit the Steelers scheme. We'll have more videos coming out shortly about the draft and some of our final thoughts and some discussions on who we end up drafting. To close it out, if you don't mind, please hit that subscribe button, that like button if you haven't already. Thanks all for watching, and go Steelers.